Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the podcast. Can you believe it is already November? And, Thanksgiving and Christmas, the holidays are just around the corner. And I think it's natural for all of us this year as we enter the Thanksgiving season to reflect a little bit on intentional gratitude. And I wanted to just do an episode on a gratitude practice because it seems timely with the season. It's one of those things that we like to be reminded of and be more intentional about around Thanksgiving, right? As we celebrate our blessings and the holidays coming up, it's great to just be a little more intentional about a gratitude practice and being grateful for the things that we have and appreciate. It's interesting in 2016 when I was working on my gratitude journal, A Grateful Heart. And I started researching a little bit about gratitude and intentionally practicing gratitude and the benefits. And I talked about it in the journal because when I started doing the research, I was astounded by how much research there was out there about the benefits of a regular gratitude practice in your life. And I mean, it was everything from, having more positive emotions. Well, I expected that, but I didn't expect things like decreased blood pressure and better sleep quality. And a regular gratitude practice, makes you kinder and improves your relationships and all of these other benefits that I never really stopped to think about. It kind of sounds like a wonder drug, right? It does this and this and this and this, and it's free, right? We don't have to spend any money on a gratitude practice. We don't need a prescription for it. It's just something that we can be intentional about. And like anything, when we are more intentional about it, we reap the benefits from that intentionality. So important. And when I talk about a gratitude practice, the power of practicing gratitude isn't just the moment where you're sitting down with your notebook or your journal or saying, hey, I'm grateful for this. Now that's important and that can be helpful, right? It is very helpful to us, beneficial to us to be intentional about sitting down and going, okay, I really am grateful for this and I'm grateful for this. And it absolutely helps our mindset in the moment, but it's not all about just that mindset in the moment. Because here's the thing, you've probably experienced this. If you've ever gone and bought a car, a specific kind of car, or maybe you bought a new purse or something, a new sweater that a new brand of sweater that you really love, or a particular brand of shoes even. And then suddenly everyone you see is driving that car or wearing those shoes or carrying that purse. And it's not that there are more cars or shoes or purses like the one you just bought. It's just that your subconscious is more aware of that specific car or brand of shoes because you've got one, right? You spent some time looking at it, considering it, purchasing it. Obviously, that's an investment. And so now your subconscious is just a little more tuned in to that frequency. And so it says, hey, there's one. Hey, there's one, right? You notice things more because you're just more aware of that in the moment. A gratitude practice is the same way. When you start being intentional about, hey, let me sit down and reflect on what I'm grateful for, you start tuning in your frequency to be a little more grateful in the moment when little things or big things happen. And you're like, man, that was really cool. I want to remember to write that down in my gratitude journal. So that kind of helps you be intentional about that and brings you some of that positive benefits throughout the day, not just in the 5 minutes when you're sitting down with your gratitude journal. So really important to keep that perspective, right? It's not just in the moment we say, oh, I'm thankful for this, but also throughout the day as we start to raise our level of awareness, looking for those little moments that we can be grateful. Because what you look for, you absolutely find, right? It's absolutely true that when you start being more intentional about looking for things to be grateful about and positive about, you will find them. And that's one of the ways that we can intentionally leverage a shift in our mindset and our thinking to be more positive, and enjoy the benefits of all of those long list of benefits that gratitude practice can bring us. So there are a lot of different ways to go about it. And maybe your way is different than somebody else's way. Maybe you have some ways that I'm not going to share with you on the podcast, but here are some that come to mind, or some that I've seen or heard or used that seem to be really helpful and also easy to incorporate, because I'm a big fan of simple, right? A lot of times we underestimate the power of something simple. But remember, it's not the thing itself, it's the process, right? So it's the thing itself daily applied over time that brings us more results. And the power of that, if you're going to do something every day, it needs to be simple. It needs to be easy, because you are busy, right? We're all busy and we're getting busier by the minute. And so when we talk about making changes in our life and our routine, they need to be easy. They need to be simple. They need to be things that we can do in 2 minutes, because that makes us much more likely to be successful. So obviously the first one, have a gratitude journal, right? You can get the a grateful heart that I have. You can order that on the website or Amazon. That's absolutely one way. It's got 30 days of gratitude practice specifically for women. And it's a faith-based gratitude journal. So it guides you through some intentional prayer and Bible verses around giving thanks. But you also could just get a blank notebook, right? Maybe you have your favorite kind of notebook or your favorite composition book that you like to just keep around. You absolutely could just dedicate a page a day to a gratitude practice in something like that. Again, very simple. The power is in the process, right? You don't have to have a fancy notebook. You just have to do it. Find a way that works for you. I'm also a fan of 3x5 cards. Always have been. 3x5 cards are one of the most effective ways for me to, like, when I'm studying for something, and I don't know why, but it really helps me when I write something down on a 3x5 card. Then I can go back through them later and review them almost like flashcards. So kind of incorporate that concept into your gratitude practice, right? It's something about us thinking and having a thought and then physically writing it down that helps really cement it in our brain. And I love the power of that being applied to a gratitude practice, because it makes it easy for you to kind of capture that and be more mindful of it. And a stack of 3x5 cards is cheap, right? What if you just had one 3x5 card a day, jotted down 2 seconds, things that you're grateful for that day. And then at the end of the year, how cool would it be to go back through your cards and look at them and go, wow, I was grateful for this. I was grateful for that. Kind of touching on that concept or building on that concept, this would be a really cool concept for a relationship that you really want to be more intentional about. But what if you started just a simple little notebook, and every day you wrote down something about that person that you were grateful for or appreciative of? Maybe they did something small for you, or just, gave you a hug when you were having a bad day, whatever it was. And then, do that for a month, and then give them that gratitude journal and say, hey, these are all of the ways that I'm grateful for you in my life. Now, how cool is that for them to then sit down and be able to read all of the little touches that they had in your life in a positive way, right? That is a powerful relationship tool. And I guarantee you, if you're sitting down every day and writing in a notebook about the ways you're grateful to your spouse or your kids or something like that, there again, you will start to be more aware of those little things that they're doing for you and more appreciative of them. And with that comes a little more patience. It's more of a deposit into the relationship, right? A deposit of trust. And that builds over time. So really great idea for relationships. You could do it for a month. You could do it for a year. This would be a cool thing for a spouse to do with kids. And then maybe it makes a great Mother's Day present or something like that, right? Lots of different ways that you can do this. So I really like that concept. I'm also a big fan of just, daily affirmations and things like that. But there again, I think there's really something powerful about it when we actually write down what we're grateful for, right? That's the practice part. That's the action part that really helps make that mind-body connection. Something very powerful about that. And it's a useful tool when we can leverage that. And there again, this doesn't have to be a big project. I know one lady that I was coaching, she was like, I want to be more intentional about my morning routine, but you know what? I get up in the morning and it's so easy for me to get sidetracked. And first thing I know, I'm scrolling social media, and then I've set a bad tone for my mindset for the rest of the day, and I'm frustrated by social media and the news. And so, I coached her through a session around this because she wanted to be a little more mindful in her morning routine. And what she finally figured out was a brilliant solution. She figured out, number one, she would get up first thing in the morning, not look at the phone, not look at email, social media, but she would go into the kitchen and she would start her pot of coffee. And so she figured out if she just put her daily journal and planner, gratitude planner, right there by the coffee pot, then while the coffee was perking, she could bring it out and have that really intentional, just a few minutes of her day to set the tone for her day and priorities and practice some gratitude. And she's standing there anyway, waiting for the coffee, right? So it gave her a way to leverage that time. And it also made it very simple and effective for her. And that's the last point that I really wanted to talk about. When we all could be more mindful and appreciative of our blessings. And I know many of us would like to be more intentional about that, but I would just suggest to you the first step to that is look around and see if there are little tweaks that you can do in your environment to make that easier. Right? Just like my coaching client figured out, there was just a little tweak which she would just put her journal by the coffee pot that made it so easy for her to be intentional in her morning routine. Maybe there's something way that you can leverage that in your routine. I love to keep a box of thank you notes just right here on my desk or right here on the desk beside me, because that makes it, number one, it's top of mind, right? I have a stack of thank you notes staring at me. And so it makes it very easy when I just have a few minutes, I'm downloading a big file or something like that, and I'm just kind of sitting here in front of the computer, I've got a stack of thank you notes that just say, who do I need to send a thank you note to today? There's so many ways that we can express appreciation, and a handwritten thank you note is just one of those simple but very powerful ways that we can communicate with people. I think it's an art that we've kind of gotten away from. I know e-cards are big now, and they're, certainly more environmentally friendly, but I think there's something just magical about getting a handwritten thank you note in the mail these days. An old-fashioned concept maybe, but probably one that's underutilized by many people in so many different ways. So I would just encourage you and challenge you, look for 3 things that you can do and just make your environment a little more conducive to practicing gratitude. I highly encourage you, just little ways, right? Maybe you pop down to the store and buy a bunch of thank you notes and set them on your desk. Maybe it's moving your gratitude journal to the coffee pot. I don't know. There's lots of different ways, and every way could be as unique and as individual as you are, but don't miss the power of this. Again, it's the process, right? So it's being intentional with this in just a few minutes every time. I love to say it. You've heard me say it before. Consistency beats intensity over and over and over again. So leverage the power of your process as we head into the Thanksgiving holidays, and then maybe you keep this going right on into 2022, right? Maybe you're creating a more positive habit that you want to keep and leverage all the way into next year. So something certainly to think about. Until next time.